My name is Brinley, and if you think you know how this story ends, you don't. The room was so quiet that night, you could hear the slow, steady tick, tick, tick of Grandma Eleanor's antique clock above the fireplace. It wasn't just silence. It was the kind of silence that sits heavy on your chest, thick with lavender potpourri, unspoken judgments, and the weight of 15 relatives pretending they weren't about to watch a public execution. I was 32, sitting in my usual spot, the faded armchair by the window no one else wanted, the one with the crooked leg and the sun-bleached cushion, my chair, my corner, my silent kingdom. And then she stood up, my sister, Sloane, dressed in a tailored navy suit that probably cost more than my monthly grocery budget for a year, hair perfectly pinned, heels sharp enough to cut glass. She cleared her throat like a courtroom gavel. "I'm raising your rent," she announced. "Effective next month, $6,800. Not a question, not a discussion." A verdict, some relatives smirked. Others looked down at their laps, suddenly fascinated by their own knees. Aunt Marla gasped like Sloane had just announced she was donating a lung. I didn't move, didn't flinch, didn't blink, because while they all thought I was sitting there stunned, heartbroken, defeated, I was actually counting down. 10 minutes. That's all I needed. 10 minutes until the doorbell rang. 10 minutes until the Truth walked in wearing a charcoal suit and carrying a leather briefcase. 10 minutes until the woman who spent her life treating me like a charity case found out she was living in my building. Growing up as Sloane's little sister meant living in a shadow so wide, so deep, it didn't just follow me. It swallowed me whole. She was the golden child, Ivy League, top of her class, made partner at a Manhattan law firm before she turned 35. Her name was whispered at dinner parties like a blessing. Did you hear what Sloane just closed? Did you see her on the cover of Metropolitan Lawyer? And me? I was Brinley the Quiet One, State University. Property management degree. Assistant manager at a mid-tier real estate firm. Not glamorous, not headline-worthy, but I loved it. Loved walking through old buildings, spotting potential where others saw cracks. Loved reading market trends like poetry. Loved the quiet rhythm of keys jingling, leases signing, tenants smiling. But love doesn't pay in status. And in my family, status was the only currency that mattered, especially to Sloane. For 5 years, I rented a 2-bedroom on Riverside Drive, one of Grandma Eleanor's old properties. Sloane managed it. Pro bono, she called it. A family discount. She set my rent at $2,200, smugly reminding me every holiday that market rate is $2,400, so you're lucky. Lucky. That's what she called it. Even when the dishwasher flooded my kitchen and took 3 months to fix. Even when the heat died in January and I slept under 3 blankets. Even when I paid on time, every time, while she vacationed in Tuscany and posted sunset. Selfies with captions like, "Grind never stops." I never complained, because that was my role. The grateful one, the lesser one, the one who should be thankful for scraps. But 3 years ago, everything changed. Grandma Eleanor was still alive then, sharp as a tack, even at 87. Every Sunday, I'd sit with her at her kitchen table, sorting through mail, organizing bills, explaining her investment statements in simple terms. She'd pat my hand and say, "You see things others miss, sweetheart." One evening, just before she passed, she pulled me close, pressed a business card into my palm, whispered, "Sloane means well, but she doesn't see everything. Sometimes the quiet ones, they're the smartest. Remember that. When the time comes." I didn't understand then, not until months later, when her personal lawyer, not the family attorney Sloane used, called me, said Grandma had left me something, outside the main will, a private inheritance, enough to make a move, enough to change the game. Back in that living room, Sloane was still talking, still performing. She clicked through color-printed Zillow listings like she was giving a TED Talk on superiority. Comparable units, $7,200, $7,500, even $8,100. I've been subsidizing your lifestyle for 5 years. That's $240,000 out of my pocket. Aunt Marla actually clutched her pearls. "Sloane, you're a saint." Sloane smiled that practiced. Polished smile, the one that begged for applause. "I don't want praise. I want fairness. Brinley's 32 time. To stand on her own feet. She slid the new lease. Across the coffee table. Sign it. Today. I looked at the paper, then at my phone. One text sent 20 minutes ago. One reply already received. On my way. Documents ready? I wasn't the same Brinley they thought I was. Not anymore. Sloane mistook my silence for surrender. Let me make this educational, she said, pulling up another graph. Here's what your apartment should cost. $7,200, $7,500, $8,100. I'm actually giving you a discount at $6,800. My phone buzzed. Of minutes out. Uncle Rick cleared his throat. Sloane, that's quite a jump. It's market rate, she snapped. Successful people pay market rate. Brinley works in property management. She should understand this better than anyone. Laughter rippled through the room. Cousin Derek smirked. Guess you'll need 3 roommates, Bryn. Every word was a nail. Every smirk, a hammer. They thought they knew me. Thought I'd fold. Thought I'd cry. Thought I'd sign. Sloane leaned in, voice dripping with that sweet, syrupy condescension I knew too well. Sign the lease, Brinley, or start packing. I've already got 3 applications from Columbia law students. They're offering $7,000. The threat hung in the air like smoke, and I almost smiled. Because Sloane had no idea. She didn't know the building she used to lord over me was mine, bought 3 years ago, through a holding company, quietly, legally, completely. Every rent check, signed by me every repair order, approved by me every tenant, managed by me, and tonight, with the whole family watching, she was about to find out. I picked up the lease, traced my finger over the bold printed number, $6,800, like it was a punchline. My heart thudded, just once, hard and sure. But my face? Still as stone. Years of being underestimated had taught me the power of stillness. Sloane smirked. Good. You're finally learning to listen. Sign it. Let's move on. The weight of her arrogance pressed. Down on the room, my mother shifted. My father stared at his. Shoes, no one spoke. No one defended me. Not after 5 years of loyalty. Not after Sunday afternoons. Spent helping Grandma while Sloane was too busy. Nothing, and yet I didn't feel small. I felt steady. I placed the pen down. No. The word was soft, but it cut like glass. Heads turned. Aunt Marla gasped. Sloane froze. Her smile cracked. What do you mean? No? She demanded. I looked up, met her eyes. You don't have the authority to raise my rent? Her eyebrows shot up. Excuse me? Knock, knock, knock. The doorbell rang. Perfect timing. My pulse quickened. Not with fear, with anticipation. Sloane huffed. Who is that? I stood, walked calmly to the door, opened it. A man in a dark suit stepped inside. Briefcase. Sharp tie. Calm eyes. He nodded to me, then turned to the room. Good evening. I'm Mr. Langley, representing Riverside Holdings, LLC. I have documents for the tenants of this building. The air shifted. Victoria frowned. Tenants? What is this? I manage this property. Mr. Langley adjusted his glasses. Not anymore. Riverside Holdings purchased this building 3 years ago. I'm here tonight. On behalf of the owner. Sloane's face went pale. That's impossible. I would have known. I stepped forward. Voice steady. Clear. Loud enough for every single person in that room to hear. You didn't know. Because you never bothered to ask. I paused. Let it sink in. You were too busy lecturing me about standing on my own feet. Too busy humiliating me at every holiday, every birthday, every Sunday dinner. I took a breath. And while you were busy climbing your ladder, I smiled, just a little. I was building my foundation. Mr. Langley didn't raise his voice, didn't smirk, didn't gloat. He just opened his briefcase. The sound, that soft click of the latches, echoed louder than any shout. He placed a thick stack of documents on Grandma Eleanor's coffee table, right beside Sloane's color-printed Zillow graphs, right beside her designer pen, right beside the untouched glass of Pinot Noir she'd been sipping like royalty, title deeds, tax receipts, renovation permits, lease agreements. Every signature? Mine. Brinley Irving, Mr. Langley said, clear as morning bells, is the sole owner of this building. The room didn't just go quiet. It stopped. Even the clock forgot to tick. Sloane's breath hitched. Sharp, ragged, like someone had yanked the air from her lungs. Her fingers trembled. Her perfectly glossed lips parted, but no sound came out. For the first time in her life, she had nothing to say. Aunt Marla whispered, "Oh, my God," Uncle Rick muttered. "Well, that's karma with a side of justice." Cousin Derek, the smirker, he was staring at me like he'd never seen me before. And Mom? She gripped her wine glass so tight I thought it might shatter in her hand. Dad? Still staring at his shoes. But now, his jaw was clenched. Like he was chewing on years of regret, Sloane finally found her voice. "No, this can't be real. You're lying." I didn't flinch, didn't smile, didn't gloat. I just looked at her. Calm, steady, rooted, like a tree that had spent years growing deep while everyone assumed it was just decoration. I didn't lie, Sloane. I just stopped letting you write my story. Mr. Langley cleared his throat again. Polite, professional, devastating. If I may, Miss Irving has been the legal owner since the purchase 3 years ago. All tenant payments, including, technically, he paused, glanced at Sloane. Your unit, go directly to her holding company. Another gasp, louder this time. Sloane stumbled back like she'd been slapped. My unit? Her voice cracked. You mean, I live in your building? I folded my arms. Let the truth sink in. Yes, Sloane. You tried to triple my rent? In a building you don't own. You tried to evict me? From my own property. And you did it in front of everyone, thinking you'd humiliate me? I took a step closer. Voice low. But everyone heard it. Instead, you just humiliated yourself. She tried to fight back. Of course she did. Tears welled, not from sadness, but from rage. From the sheer unbearable weight of losing control. This isn't fair, she hissed. You tricked me. I shook my head. No, I didn't trick you. I just stopped letting you trick me. She opened her mouth again, probably to throw out some legal threat, some emotional blackmail, but I'm your sister card. I cut her off. You raised my rent to $6,800 without blinking. You called it fairness. So here's my fairness. You'll pay what the market says, or you'll leave. Same choice you gave me. Silence again. But this time, it wasn't heavy with judgment. It was heavy with reckoning. No one rushed to defend her, not Aunt Marla, not Uncle Rick, not even Mom. For the first time, they saw her, really saw her. Not the golden child, not the Harvard lawyer. Just a woman who thought power meant control, and who just lost both. Mr. Langley snapped his briefcase shut. That concludes my business for tonight. Good evening. He shook my hand, firm, respectful, nodded to the room. Like a judge leaving the bench after delivering a verdict, and walked out, leaving behind a room full of ghosts. Ghosts of their assumptions. Ghosts of their silence. Ghosts of the little sister they thought would never speak up. Sloane collapsed into her chair. Her posture, once so perfect, so poised, are now broken. Shoulders slumped, chin trembling, eyes glassy. I didn't gloat, didn't smile, didn't need to. I just turned, walked to the door, felt the weight of 15 years, of belittlement, of eye rolls, of when are you going to do something real? Slide off my shoulders. Like an old coat I didn't need anymore, I stepped outside. Cool night air kissed my skin. The streetlights glowed gold against the brick of my building. I looked up, at the windows, at the fire, escapes. At the front door I'd walked through 1,000 times, always feeling small. Not tonight. Tonight, I felt unshakable. The fallout came fast. First, the silence. Sloane didn't call, didn't text, didn't show up at family brunch. For 2 weeks she vanished, like she hoped if she disappeared long enough, the truth would too. It didn't. Then, the call started, late at night, voice trembling. Brinley, can we talk, please? You can't seriously expect me to pay rent. To you? I almost laughed. Sloane, you expected me to pay you $6,800? Why is this different? Silence. Again. Then, Mom, her voice brittle, cold, like shattered glass. You've humiliated your sister. Do you know what you've done to this family's reputation? I let her words hang. Then I answered, quiet but sharp. Do you know what you did to me? All those years you sat there. Well, she cut me down. Well, she made me feel like a burden. You didn't care about reputation then. You cared about appearances. And now? The appearance is just the truth." She hung up. I didn't cry, didn't crumble, didn't shrink. I made tea, sat by the window, watched the city lights blink awake, and smiled. I threw myself into the building, not as a landlord, as a caretaker. I repainted the hallways, warm creams and soft grays, the colors Grandma loved, fixed the elevator that had been temporarily out of service for 8 months. I replaced the lobby lights with ones that actually worked. Tenants started stopping me in the hall. "Thank you," they'd say. "It feels like home again." That was better than any applause. Then, one evening, I was locking up the lobby after checking the mailroom, and there she was, Sloane, standing under the street lamp, no suit tonight, just jeans, a sweater, hair loose. She looked smaller, not just physically, emotionally. She didn't speak at first, just stared at me, like she was trying to find the girl who used to flinch when she raised her voice. Finally, she whispered, "You've changed." I met her eyes. "No, Sloane, I haven't changed. I've just stopped letting you control the story." She blinked, like the words hit deeper than anger ever could. She opened her mouth. Maybe to argue, maybe to beg, maybe to cry. Nothing came out. She turned, walked away. Her heels clicked against the pavement, fading, gone. I stood there, breathing, feeling free. Not just from her, but from the need for her approval. From the need for anyone's approval. My life, it was mine, built brick by brick, choice by choice, silent victory by silent victory. And if you're still reading, this is for you. You, who've been told you're too quiet. You, who've been called not enough. You, who've sat in rooms full of people who never saw you until you made them. Your moment isn't coming. It's here. You don't need their spotlight. You just need your own strength, your own truth, your own deed. Hold it close. It wasn't fireworks. It wasn't screaming. It wasn't a courtroom or a showdown. It was quiet, the way real power always is. 3 months after that night in Grandma's living room, Sloane moved out. Not with a fight, not with a threat. With a key left on the counter and a note. Just 2 lines. "You were always smarter than I let myself see. I'm sorry it took losing everything for me to realize it." I held that note for a long time, didn't cry, didn't smile, just folded it, tucked it into the back of Grandma Eleanor's old recipe book, right beside the card she gave me that Sunday afternoon, the one that started it all. I didn't gloat, didn't post about it, didn't turn it into content. Some victories aren't for the world. They're for you, the quiet ones, the ones who waited, the ones who built in silence while the world clapped for louder footsteps. Sloane didn't disappear, she called. Months later, voice softer, slower, real. "I started therapy," she said. "Turns out I was afraid of being ordinary. So I made sure you stayed there instead. I didn't say I told you so. I just said, I'm glad you're healing." Because revenge? That was never the goal. Survival was. And somewhere along the way, survival became strength. Strength became peace. Peace became freedom. Today, the building thrives. Tenants throw potlucks in the courtyard. Kids draw chalk art on the sidewalk. The lobby smells like fresh coffee and old books. And me? I sit in my chair by the window, the one no one wanted, but now it's the best seat in the house because from here, I see everything. The sunrise, the seasons changing, the lives unfolding. And I know deep in my bones that I didn't just buy a building, I built a life on my terms, in my time, with my hands. So, if you're still here, if your heart beat faster with every word, this is your sign. Stop waiting for permission. Stop shrinking to fit their story. Stop apologizing for being quiet, for being steady, for being you. The world doesn't need more noise. It needs more of this. The quiet rise, the silent strength, the comeback written in deeds, not drama. You don't need a mic drop. You just need to stand up, and say softly, firmly, finally, no, then watch how everything changes.